Did you know that 2025 could be the year that changes everything we know about the future? From ancient mystical predictions to technological theories that defy our understanding, the prophecies about this year are still unresolved. But what no one told you is that some of these predictions have already started to come true. And the most shocking thing is that the best or the worst is yet to come. Get ready to embark on a journey full of surprises. Buckle up because we're diving straight into today's mystery. But before we begin, here's a secret. Those who like and subscribe before this video ends unlock an incredible wave of good luck. Don't miss your chance. Have you ever stopped to think about what you really know about the future? You may have heard of prophecies, theories, and predictions, but what if I told you that many of these enigmas are about to unfold in ways that no one could have imagined? The year 2025 is at the center of many of these predictions, and what seemed far away is now getting closer. Some ancient prophecies, which once seemed vague or even fanciful, are beginning to make more sense as time goes on. What does the future really hold for us? Believe it or not, prophecies are not just the stuff of ancient books and forgotten legends. Today they continue to influence our world in more concrete ways than we might imagine. Nostradamus, for example, wrote about the future with such precision that many find his predictions eerily accurate. But how does this connect to 2025? And what about the Mayan prophecies, which warned of a changing cosmic cycle? These ancient warnings are not so far removed from today's reality, where global events have an ominous correlation with these predictions. From wars to natural disasters, everything seems to point to the same fate. But perhaps the biggest surprise lies in the modern prophecies made by futurists and scientists that speak of a near future, a technological revolution that will change our existence forever. As we move towards 2025, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and other fields have the power to rewrite the rules of the game. And while many look to the past to understand the future, some theories suggest that the greatest challenge of 2025 will not be cataclysmic, but technological. But can we really control this future, or are we simply at the mercy of whatever comes next? Part 1. The Prophecies of Nostradamus. With so many possible paths, an essential question arises. Can we really predict what will happen in 2025, or are we just trying to figure out a tide of inevitable change? If these prophecies are real, what lies ahead? In the next segment, we'll explore in detail what these specific predictions for 2025 tell us, starting with Nostradamus's intriguing predictions. Get ready to find out what he really predicted and how it might fit with what we're experiencing today. Did you know that some of the greatest tragedies in history seem to have been predicted centuries ago by one man? Michel de Nostradam, better known as Nostradamus, is one of the most famous prophets of all time, and his predictions continue to intrigue the world to this day. But most impressively, many believe he predicted events such as the rise of Hitler, the September 11th attacks, and even the global pandemic of 2020. How could he have known all of this? And could his predictions about 2025 also be about to come true? Nostradamus was born in 1503, at a time when fear of the unknown and great conflicts shaped the future of humanity. As an astrologer and physician, he used his vast knowledge of astrology, history, and the occult to create his predictions. His best-known work, Les Prophecies, was published in 1555 and contains more than 900 quatrains, short poems, that according to many scholars predict the future with frightening accuracy. But what really makes Nostradamus so relevant is the enigmatic way in which he expressed his prophecies, leaving room for many interpretations over the centuries. Although his fame has spread around the world, many question the accuracy of his predictions. This is because Nostradamus's quatrains are extremely vague, full of metaphors and symbols that can be applied to a variety of events. A classic example is his famous prophecy about the Great King of Terror, which many believe refers to the September 11, 2001 attacks. Others suggest that he predicted the rise of the Nazi regime. The question is, how much of this was actually predicted, or are we just trying to fit historical events to Nostradamus's words? But what did he really say about 2025? Some scholars argue that by looking at his quatrains, it is possible to see a reference to future events that have not yet occurred, but that may be crucial to the next cycle of global transformation. His words, which speak of great changes, revolutions, and conflicts, may be more connected to our present than we imagine. Nostradamus was, without a doubt, a man ahead of his time, and his prophecies still echo in discussions about the future of the world. As we unravel Nostradamus's prophecies, it becomes clear that the future he foresaw is both fascinating and terrifying. But as we explore these verses and try to understand their messages, there's another mystery that deserves our attention: the Mayan calendar, which also points to 2025. Could the predictions of Nostradamus and the Mayans be connected in some way? In the next segment, we'll explore how the ancient Mayan civilization also predicts a major shift in 2025 and what that means for our future. Have you ever imagined that in 2025, the world could be on the brink of a major transformation, and that a man who lived more than 500 years ago could have predicted it all? Nostradamus, with his enigmatic quatrains, seems to have pointed to a future in which humanity would face great challenges. But did he also predict specific events for the year 2025? His predictions, although vague, have been analyzed for centuries, and many believe that the year 2025 holds the key to understanding the global changes he described. Let's explore together what he really said. Although Nostradamus was famous for his dark and ambiguous prophecies, some of his quatrains seem to be more connected to the future than ever before. He spoke of natural disasters, global conflicts, and the rise of new leaders, many of whom would be kings of terror, a phrase that, for many, directly refers to events like the September 11th attacks. But what about the future? What did he say about the years ahead? Some interpretations suggest that he predicted a global crisis in 2025, linked to a major shift in the balance of power. Nostradamus also spoke of a great war that would begin in the middle of the 21st century. According to some analyses of his quatrains, 2025 would be the time when this war would reach its peak. Many scholars suggest that he was not referring to a conventional war, but to a technological and economic war, in which the domain of information and artificial intelligence would become the battlefield. As technology advances, the war he predicted could very well be fought invisibly, with cyber attacks and data manipulation being the most dangerous weapons. He also spoke of a great leader who would emerge from a distant land, someone who would conquer great powers and change the course of history. Some believe Nostradamus was referring to the rise of emerging powers like China, which is already challenging Western hegemony. This leader could be a symbol of the geopolitical transformation we expect by 2025, where new centers of power will challenge dominant nations and perhaps even redefine global alliances. But Nostradamus's prophecies were not limited to political and economic issues. He also spoke of major natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions that would devastate entire regions. Global warming and climate change could be the cause of these catastrophes, and many believe that 2025 will be the turning point when nature begins to take its toll on human actions. Nostradamus predicted that the global climate would become more erratic and weather conditions would become increasingly extreme. Could he have been referring to what we are facing today? One of his most enigmatic quatrains described the rise of a new age, marked by a spiritual and cultural renaissance. Many interpret this as a transition from a consumerist society to a more conscious one, where people would turn more to spiritual and community issues. 2025 could be the year of a major paradigm shift, where humanity would begin to come together to address global challenges in a more collaborative and holistic way, moving into a new cycle of evolution. Among Nostradamus's predictions, one of the most fascinating is that by the 21st century, the planet would undergo a technological revolution that would completely change the way we live. If we look at recent advances in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and renewable energy, it's clear that he was somehow anticipating this change. But what he didn't mention was the speed at which these innovations could happen. By 2025, emerging technologies could be so integrated into our daily lives that we will be forced to redefine what it means to be human. The great cataclysm that Nostradamus predicted for the future is also closely linked to social and political change. He described a time when nations would be divided not just by armed conflict, but by deep ideological divisions. What we are seeing today with the rise of political extremism, social polarization, and global protests may be a reflection of a Nostradamus prediction. The year 2025 could be the tipping point where these divisions reach a new level, and the world finds itself on the brink of revolution. Another notable prediction by Nostradamus involves the fall of great empires, a collapse that he associated with a global economic cataclysm. This, he said, could be caused by financial instability and the failure of the banking systems that underpin the world economy. What we are seeing today with rising global debt, rising inequality, and the questioning of the effectiveness of traditional financial systems may be an indication that Nostradamus was, in some ways, right. The collapse of major economies by 2025 could be the catalyst for a new global economic order. Nostradamus also spoke of the children of chaos, a young generation that would rise to challenge established norms. This generation would be characterized by a spirit of rebellion and innovation, willing to fight for a more just and equitable world. Today we see this generation on the rise, with young people around the world demanding stronger action against climate change, social inequality, and political oppression. Will 2025 be the year when this generation finally has the power to make a difference and transform the world? Amid all these predictions of destruction and change, there is also a message of hope. Nostradamus spoke of a rebirth where humanity would rise from the ashes and begin a new era of prosperity and harmony. He believed that destruction and chaos would be followed by a new cycle of growth and innovation. Will 2025 mark the beginning of this rebirth, with people coming together to create a more sustainable and balanced future? The world is about to find out. But when we look at Nostradamus's quatrains, a crucial question arises. How accurate are these predictions? Many believe he was simply making vague generalizations that could be interpreted in a variety of ways. Others claim he was deliberately being cryptic to avoid being persecuted for his ideas. What we do know for sure is that regardless of the accuracy of his predictions, people continue to look to Nostradamus's words for answers, trying to understand what the future holds. And this brings us to a deeper question. Are we simply projecting our own fears and desires onto Nostradamus's predictions? How could he have known about specific events, such as the September 11th attacks or the rise of leaders like Hitler? Are these coincidences really predictions, or are we just making a convenient interpretation? Either way, the fascinating connection between his prophecies and global events continues to generate debate and discussion among scholars and enthusiasts. As we delve deeper into the interpretation of Nostradamus's prophecies, one thing is clear. He left a legacy that transcends time and continues to provoke our imagination. But his predictions are not the only ones that point to 2025 as a pivotal year. Ancient civilizations, such as the Mayans, also had their own ideas about the future, and many of them coincided with Nostradamus's warnings. In the next segment, we will explore historical accounts and eyewitness accounts that provide startling revelations. Did you know that over the centuries, numerous historical figures have claimed to have witnessed events predicted by Nostradamus? From Renaissance monarchs to contemporary leaders, many believe that his prophecies not only echoed through time, but also came true in surprising ways. But how can we truly assess the veracity of these accounts? Are these stories proof of the accuracy of his predictions, or simply coincidences? What do real witnesses of the time and historians have to say about Nostradamus's predictions? Let's explore the stories that have marked history and continue to fuel the mystery surrounding the predictions of this enigmatic prophet. The impact of Nostradamus's prophecies began immediately after the publication of his book Les Prophéties in 1555. He quickly became a household name throughout Europe, and his quatrains were intensely analyzed. What attracted attention were the many predictions that seemed to come true unexpectedly, such as the death of Henry II, the King of France. Nostradamus described in enigmatic terms the fate of a great king who would be wounded in the eye during a tournament. In the same year, 1559, Henry II, the Lion of France, was seriously wounded in the eye during a competition and died a few days later. This event was interpreted as a fulfillment of his prophecy. The same phenomenon of accuracy was observed with Napoleon Bonaparte. Many scholars believe that Nostradamus predicted the rise and fall of the French emperor in an impressive way. One of his quatrains refers to a great war king who would emerge to conquer Europe. Given the historical impact of Napoleon, who invaded much of the continent and was marked by his military victories, many argue that Nostradamus anticipated his rise. The accuracy with which the quatrains seemed to align with historical events fueled the fascination with his prophecies. The same line of reasoning was applied to Adolf Hitler's regime. When the German dictator came to power, several of Nostradamus's quatrains were reinterpreted to suggest that he had predicted the rise of a great tyrant who would be responsible for a devastating world war. In one of his quatrains, Nostradamus describes a leader coming from the north who would be a threat to the world. Many have interpreted this as a direct reference to Hitler, who was born in Austria, in northern Germany, and became one of the greatest villains in modern history. The relationship between these predictions and historical reality continues to generate debate to this day. But how can we know if these connections are more than just coincidences? The truth is that the nature of Nostradamus's quatrains lends itself to a multitude of interpretations. His words, often filled with metaphor and symbolism, can be applied to a variety of scenarios. This makes his predictions flexible and open to different readings, which fuels both the fascination and the criticism regarding their accuracy. However, many believe that the way events seem to align with his words cannot be easily ignored. In addition to major historical events, other mysterious accounts are also part of Nostradamus's history. During his lifetime, he is said to have conducted a number of private consultations with influential people, including kings, queens, and even popes. Stories say that many of these people were deeply impressed by his predictions, which seemed to be more than mere speculation. However, it is important to note that in some cases, the accounts of such encounters were recorded by secondary sources and may have been embellished over time. Even so, these stories contribute to the image of Nostradamus as a powerful prophet. In one such story, King Charles V of France is said to have consulted Nostradamus before making important decisions during his tumultuous reign. The prophet is said to have predicted a major crisis for the kingdom and warned of an impending catastrophe. Indeed, Charles V's reign was marked by political and religious violence, including the massacre of St. Bartholomew in 1572. This historical catastrophe has been seen by many as a confirmation of Nostradamus' warnings, although, as always, the sources documenting such encounters are difficult to verify. There are also accounts of ordinary people who claim to have been impacted by Nostradamus' prophecies. Many say they found answers to their own fears and concerns about the future in the quatrains. These witnesses claim that Nostradamus' predictions were not only about major historical events, but also about more personal matters, such as the fate of their families or nations. According to some accounts, Nostradamus would have revealed personal secrets or even details of his daily life that impressed those who consulted him. These stories, as curious as they may be, add a layer of mystery to Nostradamus' legacy. However, there are also those who question the authenticity of these witnesses. Some historians claim that many of the stories circulating about Nostradamus may have been created or exaggerated over time. The mystery and aura of mysticism that surrounds Nostradamus' name are fertile ground for speculation. It is perhaps easier to believe that he predicted events than to admit that, in many cases, the accounts may be legends or inventions of his followers. This debate over the veracity of the prophecies, however, only increases the fascination with the prophet. In more recent times, scholars have begun to re-examine Nostradamus' quatrains, trying to correlate his predictions with current events. Some believe that he surprisingly predicted the rise of new global powers, climate change, and even increasing dependence on technology. Quatrains that speak of new kings and renaissance are often associated with the growing role of nations such as China, India, and other emerging economies. Disruptive technologies and environmental crises seem to reflect themes present in his predictions. At one point, one of Nostradamus' most intriguing prophecies mentions a major transformation that would occur during the 21st century. This transformation could include the fall of great empires, a technological revolution, and a reorganization of global powers. It is precisely this type of prediction that generates so much interest in Nostradamus to this day. Globalization, political tensions, and the rapid advance of technology make Nostradamus' quatrains resonate even more powerfully. As we move on to the next topic, it's essential to note how Nostradamus' predictions continue to shape the way we view the future. His legacy remains a constant subject of debate, but the search for answers, in his words, is far from over. What if Nostradamus' prophecies actually point to something bigger, something that is about to happen in 2025? In the next segment, we'll explore the cultural impact and controversies of these predictions. Did you know that Nostradamus' prophecies are not only a topic of discussion among historians and scholars, but also fuel the popular imagination, influencing films, books, and even pop culture? The fascinating idea that he could predict future events so accurately has generated enormous cultural impact, and his predictions continue to shape how we see the future. But what many don't know is that the way his prophecies have been interpreted over time has generated immense controversy. Were his visions a real reflection of an apocalyptic future, or simply coincidences shaped by interpretation? From the moment his quatrains were published, Nostradamus was a polarizing figure. On the one hand, he was widely admired as a genius, almost like a modern oracle. On the other, many wondered whether his predictions were actually well-founded, or whether he was simply making vague statements to be reinterpreted over time. The controversies began with the very language of his quatrains, which are full of metaphors and symbolism, allowing for multiple readings and interpretations. This leaves room for any event to be attributed to one of his predictions without the need for great precision. This kind of flexible interpretation has led to Nostradamus being widely exploited by the media over the centuries. In many films and TV shows, his predictions have been taken as a starting point for apocalyptic stories, where major disasters or global changes were depicted as inevitable. His figure has been romanticized and often associated with mysticism and magic, as if he were a man with supernatural powers. This has generated a cult following of followers who see his words as a key to understanding the future, further fueling the mystery surrounding his legacy. Furthermore, Nostradamus's cultural impact is not limited to literature and entertainment. His prophecies have also been used as a way to legitimize esoteric beliefs, often associated with the occult and astrology. The popularization of his ideas in the 19th century led to his quatrains becoming a fundamental part of some sects and spiritual movements, which believed that he possessed secret knowledge about the fate of the world. This in turn generated a series of controversies, with critics arguing that his prophecies were dangerous if used to manipulate people. As the modern era developed, the rise of science and rational thought caused Nostradamus's prophecies to be discredited by many scholars. The lack of clarity in the quatrains and the possibility of countless interpretations caused scientists and skeptics to question the validity of his predictions. Many suggest that the real reason for his fame is that he knew how to speak vaguely enough that any event in the future could be fitted into his words. To many, this is a clear sign that Nostradamus was not a seer, but simply a man playing with probabilities. However, even within the academic community, there were those who argued that his predictions had a basis in fact. Some scholars claim that Nostradamus's quatrains contained elements of true wisdom, considering that he was using the knowledge of his time about astrology, medicine, and the occult sciences. The idea that he had access to hidden wisdom has also generated many conspiracy theories, which suggest that Nostradamus was part of an esoteric circle that possessed deep secrets about the destiny of humanity. For these scholars, his work was a way of revealing this knowledge in a disguised manner to protect society from the great truths that he was anticipating. On the other hand, there are those who believe that Nostradamus's predictions are an excellent way to explore the concept of destiny and human expectations. For many people, belief in his prophecies has become a way of dealing with fears and uncertainties about the future. Over time, Nostradamus has come to be seen more as a symbolic figure than a true prophet. His name is associated with the idea that, no matter what happens, there is a higher power that can reveal future paths. This psychological factor has fueled his cultural impact, leaving people waiting for answers that often never come. The controversy surrounding Nostradamus's prophecies, then, is as much a matter of interpretation as of belief. Throughout history, there have been times when his predictions have been used to justify political and social action. For example, in times of great crisis, such as during the World Wars, people have looked to his verses for an explanation of the chaos they were experiencing. Interpreting his words has been used as a way to find meaning in times of despair, a way to believe that if something was predicted, there was some kind of control over fate. These historical moments of Nostradamic apprehension are fueled in some ways by events such as natural disasters and social crises that coincide with Nostradamus's words. For example, when he spoke of great floods and catastrophic fires, many people associated these predictions with specific events in history, such as the Great Fire of London or the great floods that devastated cities over the centuries. As events unfolded, it seemed as if Nostradamus's prophecy was coming true, leading to him being seen as a true prophet of the apocalypse. However, Nostradamus himself was clear in writing his predictions in such a symbolic way, perhaps knowing that if he were more direct, he could be discredited or even persecuted. The big question is, did he really want to predict the future, or was he just leaving a work open to interpretation? The way in which his prophecies have mixed with the popular imagination over the centuries leaves this question open. What seems clear, however, is that Nostradamus' cultural impact is not limited to his literary work alone, but extends across a whole range of disciplines, such as astrology and the occult. As we conclude this look at Nostradamus' cultural impact, a crucial question arises. Are his predictions truly valuable for understanding the future, or are we simply looking for answers in a set of ancient words open to multiple interpretations? If Nostradamus' prophecies are not a window into the future, perhaps we should look to other cultures and their own predictions about 2025. In the next segment, we'll explore the Mayans' visions of the future and how their prophecies may align with or contradict Nostradamus's. Part 2, the Mayan prophecies and the 2025 calendar. Have you ever wondered why the Mayan calendar is so mysterious and fascinating? Many believe that this ancient civilization knew more about the future than any other culture at the time, and that their calendar holds hidden secrets about the fate of the world. The Mayan calendar, with its complex and enigmatic cycles, has been a source of mystery and speculation, especially when it comes to the end of a cycle that, according to some interpretations, could happen in 2012. But could the true importance of the Mayan calendar lie in 2025 and not in the already famous 2012? The Mayan calendar is not just a simple way of counting days, but rather an extremely sophisticated structure that reflects their view of time and life. The basis of the Mayan calendar is the long count, a system of dates that spans thousands of years, unlike our Gregorian calendar, which is based on a 365-day solar cycle. The greatness of the Mayan system lies in the way it interweaves cycles of time, including the Baktun, a period of about 394 years, and the idea that time is not linear but cyclical. For the Mayans, the end of a cycle did not mean the end of the world, but a transition to a new beginning. In 2012, the world was swept up in a frenzy of speculation about the end of the world, fueled by misinterpretations of the Mayan calendar. However, modern scholars explain that for the Mayans, the end of a Baktun in 2012 did not mean an apocalypse, but rather the closing of one cycle and the beginning of another. What few know is that the next significant cycle for the Mayans would not be in 2012, but in 2025, when the calendar enters a new important phase known as the Age of Transformation. This period promises great changes and would be a milestone in the evolution of humanity. The fascinating accuracy of the Mayan calendar and its connection to astronomical events, such as planetary alignments and the movements of the stars, led many people around the world to look to it for answers to the great dilemmas of the future. This connection to the cosmos was central to the Mayan worldview, and their ability to predict and organize time around these celestial observations made their calendar considered one of the most advanced of its time. 2025 then stands out as a pivotal point, not only for the Mayan civilization, but for all those who still seek to understand the future through the lens of the past. As we delve deeper into the meaning of 2025 to the Mayans, we can't help but wonder, what did this transition really mean to them? Is this new cycle something we can really expect? As we continue, we'll see how Mayan prophecies connect with predictions from other ancient cultures, including Nostradamus. What does the future hold? Get ready to explore the possible revelations and changes that 2025 could bring. Did you know that while the Mayan calendar has been widely associated with the end of the world in 2012, many scholars now claim that the truly significant year is 2025. While the 2012 date has sparked a frenzy of fear and speculation, the Mayan calendar points to 2025 as a much more important milestone in the evolution of time and humanity. But what actually happens in that year? And why is it gaining attention now? Could the true change that the Mayans predicted be yet to come? For the Mayans, time was not linear but cyclical. They believed that history repeated itself in great cosmic cycles, with each cycle marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. The Mayan calendar is made up of different cycles of time, and the Baktun, a period of approximately 394 years, is one of the most important. Baktun 13, which ended in 2012, was interpreted by many as the end of a significant cycle. However, the next cycle, Baktun 14, begins in 2025 and is considered the true beginning of a new era, something the Mayans called the Age of Transformation. The concept of transformation was central to the Mayan worldview. For them, the end of a cycle did not mean destruction, but rather a transition to a new phase. This transition would be marked by great spiritual, social, and even physical changes. The belief was that humanity would undergo a gradual evolution, becoming more aware of its role in the cosmos. By 2025, the Mayans believed that this collective awakening would reach its peak, bringing about a new harmony between humans and the universe. But how would this apply to our modern world? What does awakening mean in a global context? In addition to spiritual and cosmic transformation, the Mayans also foresaw significant changes in the balance of global power. Some scholars interpret 2025 as the time when old power structures, such as governments and economic systems, would begin to disintegrate, making way for new forms of global organization. This could involve a restructuring of nations and the rise of new powers to replace the current superpowers. The theory that 2025 will bring a new world order is not new, but the Mayans, with their focus on the cycle of time and cosmic alignments, placed a deeper spiritual meaning on such changes. Planetary movement, a central feature of the Mayan calendar, is also intrinsically linked to the predictions for 2025. According to the Mayans, the position of the planets in the sky can have a significant impact on Earth, affecting everything from the weather to human behavior. In 2025, the alignment of certain celestial bodies would indicate a shift in the planet's energy, which, according to the Mayans, would accelerate the process of global change. Some modern scholars believe that this may be related to the increase in natural disasters and the intensification of extreme weather events that we are witnessing today. For the Mayans, the cosmic cycle was closely linked to the idea of a new age, a time of greater balance and harmony between humanity and the cosmos. The year 2025 would be the time when humans, finally awakening to their connection with nature and the universe, would reach a new spiritual understanding. This could translate into a rise in collective awareness of environmental issues such as climate change and a global movement towards sustainability. Could the 2025 cycle really signal the dawn of a new era of environmental action and responsibility? Many believe the answer is closer than we think. Furthermore, the Mayans viewed time as a living force, something that not only marks events, but also influences the very nature of reality. For them, cycles were not just numbers and dates, but represented vast periods of cosmic energy that shape the conditions of the Earth. The beginning of the new cycle in 2025 is therefore seen as an opportunity to align this cosmic energy with the spiritual and material needs of humanity. This implies that people would be more inclined to seek a higher purpose and live according to higher universal laws. However, the Mayan prophecies also speak of immense challenges during this transition. The beginning of 2025 could be marked by global social and political conflicts as old structures collapse and new forms of organization and governance begin to form. According to the predictions, these struggles would not only be physical, but also ideological, with people around the world questioning their values and their vision of the future. The process of transformation itself would be painful, but essential to building the new world. While many see Mayan predictions as an allegory for troubled times ahead, others believe there is a more direct link between these ancient prophecies and current events. The rise of emerging powers, the collapse of traditional economic structures, and increased natural disasters are often cited as signs that we are entering a period of transition. In 2025, according to the Mayans, the world will experience a global reconfiguration that could be both an opportunity and a challenge, forcing humanity to evolve in order to align with the cosmic energies that govern the universe. It is interesting to note that for the Mayans, the changes that would occur in 2025 would not only be external, but also internal, reflecting a transformation within each individual. People would be forced to deal with their shadows and unresolved aspects, a journey of self-knowledge and purification. What might seem like an external change in global society would, in fact, be a reflection of an inner awakening, where each human being would have the opportunity to connect more deeply with their spiritual self. This concept of internal transformation is something that resonates strongly with contemporary spiritual philosophies. In some interpretations of Mayan prophecies, 2025 also marks a time when humanity would be challenged to address issues of social and environmental inequality more aggressively. Are we finally ready to confront the global climate crisis, or will 2025 reveal humanity's inability to come together to save the planet? According to the Mayans, the new cycle would inevitably bring these issues to the forefront, forcing a profound reassessment of human priorities. On a more practical level, 2025 could be the year of a collective awakening that leads to the implementation of more equitable and sustainable global policies. This global awakening could result in the creation of new international alliances and the reform of global institutions to address the crises we currently face. What the Mayans envisioned as a gradual process of evolution could then be driven by imminent events that force governments and populations to rapidly adapt to a new kind of reality. As we delve deeper into the 2025 predictions, it's impossible not to make the connection between the Mayan calendar and other prophecies from ancient civilizations, such as those of Nostradamus. What do these two great prophets have in common? Are their visions interconnected in some way? In the next segment, we'll explore stories from indigenous and traditional peoples, bringing us a deeper understanding of what really awaits us in 2025. Did you know that many indigenous peoples around the world have their own predictions for the future? And some of them point to 2025 as a pivotal year? Unlike Western interpretations of the Mayan calendar, many of these peoples believe that the future is deeply connected to the earth and natural cycles, and that in 2025, we will experience significant change, not only in the physical environment, but also in the spiritual. But what do these ancient cultures know that others have not yet realized? Let's explore how these traditions see the future and what they predict for 2025. The indigenous peoples of Latin America, for example, have a cyclical view of time, very similar to that of the Mayans. For them, time is not linear, but moves in circles that repeat themselves, bringing moments of rebirth and transformation. Among those who follow the indigenous tradition, it is believed that 2025 will be the year in which humanity will undergo a spiritual revolution. This revolution, however, will not only be internal, but also external, profoundly affecting relationships with nature and the world around us. For these peoples, balance with the environment will be restored, but only after a period of great hardship and trials. In many indigenous cultures, such as the Quechua, the connection with nature and the cycles of the earth is central. For them, time is not something that passes without purpose, but a continuous flow of energy that directly affects human life. It is believed that in 2025 there will be a great awakening regarding our responsibility to the earth. This awakening will be associated with the urgent need to restore the ecological balances that have been destroyed over the past centuries. The idea is that by becoming aware of our impact on the planet, we will begin to walk in harmony with it again. In the traditions of the Hopi people, who inhabit the southwestern United States, there is a prophecy known as the Prophecy of the Four Wrongs. This prophecy describes 4 great periods of destruction and renewal in human history. The last of these destructions is expected to occur in the 21st century, with 2025 being the symbolic year of rebirth. The Hopi people believe that during this period, humanity will face a great choice: to continue on the path of destruction or to begin a new journey of recovery and spiritual renewal. This choice is seen as a collective one, in which each individual and each society will have to decide how to contribute to the future of the planet. The Inuit people who inhabit the Arctic regions have a similarly apocalyptic vision of the future, but with a hope for renewal. For the Inuit, the future is not defined by natural disasters, but by humanity's ability to adapt and respect the natural rhythms of the earth. In their traditions, the cycle of nature is constantly changing, and 2025 will be a decisive moment for these cycles to realign. For them, the imbalances caused by climate change are a sign that the earth is asking us to urgently change our behavior. This change is seen as a reconnection with ancestral values of respect and balance with nature. While many of us look to the future with anxiety about catastrophes and challenges, these indigenous cultures present a vision of hope and transformation. They do not see 2025 as an end point, but as the beginning of a new journey toward balance and harmony. But what do these predictions have in common? They speak of a future in which humans awaken to their true connection with nature and the spiritual world. The question is, are we ready to heed this call and act in time to prevent irreversible collapse? The oral traditions of indigenous cultures have been passed down from generation to generation, often through stories and myths, which speak of the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. For Native Americans, such as the Navajo, the vision of 2025 involves a great return to the earth. This means that in the near future, societies will have to reconsider their practices of exploiting the planet and begin to act to restore the lost balance. For these people, prophecies are not just predictions about the future, but guides that show how we should live to ensure that future generations can thrive. The Zulu people of Africa also have predictions involving 2025. Their worldview is strongly connected to the cycle of life and the cosmic changes that they believe will occur at specific moments in human history. According to Zulu traditions, 2025 will be a period of great revelation where cosmic energies will align the destiny of humanity. The prediction is associated with the idea that the African people and humanity as a whole will have to carry out a spiritual and social revolution to overcome the global difficulties that lie ahead, such as inequality and climate change. For them, the future will only be possible through great unity. In many of these cultures, ancient teachings hold that the key to the future lies in a return to simplicity, in strengthening community connections, and in mutual respect among all living beings. Indigenous peoples believe that the wisdom of the ancients, often disregarded in modern societies, will be essential to the survival of the planet. For them, 2025 is the time when humanity will be forced to return to its spiritual roots and learn from nature how to live in balance with it, or face the consequences of disregarding this fundamental principle. Similarly, the Aboriginal people of Australia also foresee a great transformation in 2025. They believe that this will be the year when the energies of the earth and the cosmos will align in such a way that humanity will be called to reconnect with the fundamental elements of creation. The dream time, or dreaming, that is a central part of Aboriginal spirituality, indicates that true wisdom resides in the earth and its elemental forces. Thus, 2025 would be the time when humans need to rediscover this deep connection with the earth in order to ensure future survival. In many of these prophecies, transformation is seen not as a catastrophe, but as an opportunity for evolution and rebirth. For indigenous peoples, it is a chance to right the wrongs of the past and create a more balanced and harmonious society. But will we be able to achieve this change before the planet becomes irreparably unbalanced? time is running out and the future will depend on our choices. Now, as we explore these predictions, it is interesting to see how they connect with the prophecies of Nostradamus and how they may intertwine with other ancient calendars and traditions. We will move on to explore these intersections, contemporary reactions, and debates in the next segment. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the technological innovations and scientific advances, there are still so many people who believe in ancient prophecies like those of the Mayans or Nostradamus? The truth is that, even in the 21st century, many people continue to see these predictions as a key to understanding the future. But why do these beliefs persist? After all, we live in an age of information and scientific discoveries. What makes some prophecies, especially those related to 2025, still so relevant to many people around the world? Contemporary reactions to the 2025 prophecies are mixed. On the one hand, there are those who continue to study and debate the ancient predictions, treating them as spiritual messages and guides to a more conscious future. For many, the year 2025 is seen as a crucial turning point, a moment when global changes, both physical and spiritual, will reach their peak. These groups claim that the planetary alignments and cosmic energies predicted by the Mayans, for example, are more than just coincidences, but rather central to the evolution of humanity. Theories surrounding these predictions continue to grow, especially in spiritual and esoteric communities. On the other hand, there are those who attempt to debunk these beliefs. Scientists and skeptics argue that while prophecies may be interesting as a form of cultural or historical study, they have no basis in fact. The nature of the predictions of Nostradamus, the Mayans, and other ancient prophets is often considered so vague and ambiguous that, over time, any event can be fitted into their words. Critics argue that these predictions are ultimately a product of human interpretation, molded to fit events as time goes by. Such criticism questions the value of following these predictions as a form of foresight. However, the debate over the value of these prophecies is not limited to the scientific realm. As global uncertainty increases, whether due to climate change, political tensions, or economic crises, many people are looking for answers in places where science cannot reach. The 2025 prophecies, with their promises of transformation and renewal, offer a form of hope for those who are dissatisfied with the present and fear an uncertain future. For these individuals, believing in a spiritual prediction can be a way to find purpose in times of crisis and uncertainty. On a broader scale, 2025 prophecies have been used by religious and esoteric groups to create collective movements and predictions. These movements, which often have thousands of followers, claim that in 2025, humanity will undergo a spiritual purification, with many people being forced to confront their flaws and limitations. These beliefs, while rooted in ancient traditions, are reinterpreted to align with contemporary issues such as inequality, climate change, and social tensions. In many cases, these predictions create communities united by a sense of urgency and a collective desire for change. However, not everyone is swayed by these predictions. Many argue that the popularity of the 2025 prophecies is actually a response to the sense of powerlessness that characterizes modern society. In a world where people feel increasingly disconnected from their environment, their communities, and even themselves, the prophecies offer a clear and certain path to a better future. They present a simple solution to complex contemporary problems, offering a manual for how to face the future. But this simplicity can in fact be deceiving, since the reality of global change is more complex than any prediction might suggest. Furthermore, the internet has played an important role in the dissemination of these ideas. With the growing presence of discussion forums and social networks, the popularization of theories about 2025 has intensified, bringing new adherents to beliefs about catastrophic or transformative changes. However, this has also led to a proliferation of contradictory theories. On the one hand, there are those who believe that 2025 will bring a spiritual rebirth, and on the other, there are those who fear a global catastrophe. The debate surrounding these predictions has become so intense that the lines between faith and science often become blurred, with people increasingly drawn to a future that seems to be more than just a projection. Interestingly, many of the contemporary reactions can also be attributed to the way in which prophecies are adapted to modern reality. In the past, the Mayans viewed time as a cosmic cycle of death and renewal, while Nostradamus warned of political and social change. Today, these messages are being reinterpreted to fit a globalized world where economic, environmental, and social issues are the main sources of concern. In 2025, these issues may be more pressing than ever, and people seem to be searching for deeper meaning to understand how these crises fit into a larger cycle of transformation. However, not everyone is a follower of prophecies. Some argue that such beliefs can actually be harmful, as they can lead people to neglect the practical actions that are needed to address real global problems. If people believe that a golden age is about to begin because of a prophecy, they may be less inclined to take the urgent steps needed to address the climate crisis, poverty, and other issues that require immediate action. The hope of cosmic or spiritual change may be appealing, but it can also be a way of avoiding individual and collective responsibility in the present. As we approach 2025, it's fascinating to see how ancient prophecies continue to generate intense reactions, both positive and negative. They're not just a reflection of our desire for easy answers, but also a way for us to reflect on the kind of future we want to create. The interpretations of these prophecies, whether as a warning or as a promise of renewal, reveal our deepest anxieties and hopes. The year 2025 presents itself as a turning point, but are we truly ready for what it holds? Now, considering all of these reactions and debates, it's clear that 2025 is much more than just a milestone in time. It represents the culmination of several cultural, spiritual, and scientific forces that are shaping the way we see the future. But what will 2025 hold for us? Part 3, Biblical Prophecies and the Apocalypse. Did you know that biblical prophecies about the end times have been interpreted for centuries as a map of the future, and that many believe that 2025 may be a crucial milestone in this foretold apocalypse? Passages such as those in Daniel and Revelation have been associated with global events, from devastating wars to the arrival of a new kingdom for humanity. But are we really living in the times described in these sacred texts? And what does 2025 mean for more modern interpretations of biblical prophecy? Let's explore what the Bible says about the end times and why this year continues to be a focus for so many theories. The Bible, especially in the book of Revelation, describes the end times with powerful and frightening imagery, such as the arrival of the beast, the apocalypse, and the great final judgment. Chapter 13 of Revelation speaks of a figure known as the beast, an evil leader who will emerge during the last days and have power over all nations. Many scholars believe that this Antichrist could arise in the not-too-distant future, perhaps as early as 2025. The symbolism used in the scriptures is profound, involving cosmic signs, natural disasters, and the emergence of a new world system that some say is imminent. Among the verses most often cited to explain the arrival of 2025 are the words of Jesus in Matthew 24, where he speaks of signs in the sky, the multiplication of wars and natural disasters, as signs that the times are approaching. Many interpret these signs as indicative of a global transformation, where chaos and destruction will prepare the way for the kingdom of God. These signs would not only be physical events, but also spiritual ones, such as the turning away of people from God and the rise of false prophets. If we take these verses literally, 2025 can be seen as a period in which these prophecies finally begin to be fulfilled in a visible way. The idea of a great tribulation, an era of unparalleled suffering, is central to apocalyptic interpretations. Revelation chapter 6 describes the sealing of the horsemen of the apocalypse, who will bring destruction, death, and famine to the world. Some Bible scholars believe that we are on the verge of witnessing this great tribulation, with increasing international tensions, natural disasters, and economic crises. For these people, 2025 could be the turning point where the world will see an intensification of these problems, preparing humanity for the second coming of Christ and the final judgment. The symbolism used in the Bible to describe the end times is also associated with powerful figures who would rule the world in a tyrannical manner. Some theorists point to the prophecies of Daniel in the Old Testament, which speak of empires that would rise and fall before the return of Christ. What many interpret is that the growing concentration of power in a few nations or global corporations could be a manifestation of the beast, which would have dominion over all economies and political systems. This growing control by a powerful few would be a sign that the times predicted in the Scriptures are approaching. In addition, the cosmic signs mentioned in the Prophecies of Revelation have also generated speculation about astronomical and astrological events that could occur in 2025. Some believe that the alignment of planets or the discovery of new spatial phenomena could be signs of the end. These events would be signs in the sky, as described in the Bible, announcing the return of Christ. The convergence of such events in 2025 would be seen as a mark that humanity is about to undergo a great change, both physical and spiritual, as the prophecies come to fruition. On closer inspection, some believe that biblical prophecies are not limited to catastrophes and destruction. For many, the end times described in the Bible also involve spiritual renewal. The central message is that, despite the pain and suffering, the second coming of Christ will bring a new beginning for the faithful. In 2025, some believe that the beginning of this renewal will be visible, with a rebirth of faith, more people seeking spirituality, and a return to Christian values. For these believers, 2025 is seen as the year of a new dawn for those who remain faithful. At the same time, it is important to note that not all Christians agree with these interpretations of biblical prophecy. There are many schools of thought within Christianity that view Scripture in a more metaphorical or symbolic way, rather than as literal predictions. These scholars suggest that the end times are actually a call for each individual to reflect on their spiritual life, rather than a global cataclysmic event. The differences of opinion regarding these prophecies have generated intense debate, especially when it comes to whether 2025 will actually be a milestone for the fulfillment of biblical predictions, or whether it is just another date that has become the subject of speculation. It is also interesting to note that over the years, many have attempted to make predictions about the end of the world based on biblical passages, and many of these predictions have failed to come true. This has led to skepticism, especially when new dates like 2025 emerge with promises of apocalypse. However, the persistence of these beliefs in biblical prophecy is evidence of the profound impact these texts have had on Western culture and how they continue to shape the way we understand our collective destiny. The central question about biblical prophecy for the end times, then, is not just about what will happen, but about how people will respond to these signs. Will we be prepared for the transformation, or will we be consumed by fear and uncertainty? If 2025 truly represents a turning point, will humanity be able to respond positively and seek the spiritual renewal that many believe is essential for our survival? In the next segment, we will explore the apocalyptic prophecies specifically for 2025 and see what they really tell us about the times we are living in. Did you know that 2025 has been predicted by many to be the year of major catastrophic and apocalyptic changes? From astrological predictions to ancient religious prophecies, the year is often associated with global disasters, economic crises, and even the collapse of the world order. But what exactly is behind these predictions? Is 2025 really the turning point for humanity, or are we just projecting our fears onto the future? Let's explore what the apocalyptic prophecies for 2025 really tell us about what to expect. Apocalyptic prophecies are nothing new, but many of them have focused on specific dates throughout history. However, 2025 has gained particular attention in recent years due to the growing number of theories and speculations about global catastrophes. Many scholars, drawing on astrological and spiritual interpretations, suggest that the alignment of planets and cosmic energies in 2025 will trigger a series of catastrophic events. These include everything from major earthquakes and tsunamis to extreme climate change that could cause widespread destruction. For these theorists, 2025 is the key year that marks the beginning of a new cycle of catastrophes and transformation. Among the most talked about predictions for 2025 is the idea of a global economic crisis. Some experts point to the growing instability in financial markets and global debt as a sign that the global financial system is about to collapse. According to some apocalyptic interpretations, the failure of large financial institutions combined with a crisis in natural resources would create a scenario of global economic chaos. Such a crisis, according to these prophecies, would be a turning point in which the world would be forced to restructure itself in a radical way, perhaps even establishing new forms of governance and new global currency. In the field of climate change, some prophecies for 2025 point to a catastrophic increase in natural disasters, such as hurricanes, extreme droughts, and massive floods. Many of these predictions are based on analyses of global warming and natural phenomena that are intensifying every year. Apocalypticists claim that 2025 will be the point at which human impact on the planet will be irreversible, and that natural disasters will accelerate, bringing devastating consequences for humanity. In some scenarios, these catastrophes would be so severe that they would force a massive exodus of populations, with millions of people moving in search of a safe place. In addition to economic and environmental crises, another part of the apocalyptic predictions for 2025 involves major social and political change. Some theorists suggest that the year 2025 will mark the collapse of the world's great powers and the emergence of new forms of political organization. Growing political and social polarization, combined with rising international tensions, could result in a radical global reorganization. In this scenario, mass movements and popular revolutions could be catalyzed, with the population demanding a profound change in the structures of power and government, perhaps even ushering in a new type of world order. In the spiritual realm, some esoteric traditions predict that 2025 will be the point at which humanity will undergo a cosmic transformation. According to these beliefs, the earth will undergo a spiritual upheaval, with a global awakening that will cause humanity to connect more deeply with the cosmos and with its own spiritual essence. Some schools of spiritual thought believe that in 2025, humanity will finally be able to transcend its material limitations and begin a new phase of collective consciousness. This would include a greater focus on love, compassion, and global unity, transforming society to align more with spiritual principles. However, within apocalyptic prophecies, 2025 is also seen as the year in which chaos will finally take hold. Some modern preachers and prophets, such as those influenced by currents of apocalyptic Christianity, predict a great tribulation that will affect the entire earth. For these groups, 2025 represents the height of the struggle between good and evil, with great wars and spiritual conflicts being fought on the physical and metaphysical planes. They believe that people will have to choose between aligning themselves with divine forces or succumbing to the dominion of evil forces, represented by the beast and the Antichrist mentioned in the Bible. Apocalyptic theories about 2025 are not limited to natural and social catastrophes. Many also involve a drastic change in human relationships. A major theme of these predictions is the rise of disruptive technologies that could change the nature of human life. Some modern prophets speak of the increasing control of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and even the emergence of a new global surveillance system. These advances, if not properly regulated, could result in a society completely controlled by technological elites, which many see as a form of apocalypse in the sense of a loss of individual freedom. However, it is important to note that apocalyptic predictions for 2025 are largely speculative and based on personal interpretations of global and astrological events. There is no consensus among scholars or religions about what will actually happen, and many of these predictions can be seen as a response to contemporary fears and anxieties. As history has shown, many apocalyptic dates in the past have not come to pass, and many skeptics argue that rather than a literal apocalypse, 2025 may simply be a reflection of our own projections of global catastrophe in a time of great uncertainty. However, the idea that 2025 will be a year of great change and challenge is something that resonates with many people around the world. Anxiety about climate change, political and social crises, and the impact of technology on human life all fuel these beliefs that the world is about to undergo radical transformation. The question then is, are we truly prepared to deal with these changes, whether catastrophic or transformative? What if the apocalyptic prophecies of 2025 are more than just a vision of the end, but a call for urgent change that we need to implement now? The growing popularity of these prophecies reflects the human need to make sense of the tumultuous times we live in. Many people seek answers to global challenges and find solace in predictions that offer an explanation for the natural, social, and political disasters we face. However, the key to the future may not lie in waiting for a catastrophic event, but in how we prepare for and respond to these changes in a practical and thoughtful way. The apocalypse may not be the end of the world, but the end of an era, ushering in a new opportunity for growth and evolution. As we approach 2025, the crucial question is, how will we deal with prophecies that speak of both destruction and renewal? Rather than fearing an uncertain future, can we use the lessons of these predictions to build a more sustainable and balanced path for future generations? As we explore what might happen in 2025, we also need to consider the experiences of people who claim to have visions or direct testimonies of these events. In the next segment, we will hear some of these experiences and understand how these predictions are shaping our collective perception of the future. Have you ever wondered how many people around the world claim to have had experiences and visions related to the apocalyptic future, especially about 2025? There are thousands of reports from individuals who believe they have received divine or spiritual messages, predicting global catastrophes, spiritual changes, and even the dawn of new eras. But how can we distinguish between genuine belief and simple coincidence? And what do these experiences say about the way people deal with the uncertainty of the future? Let's explore the stories and testimonies of people who claim to have had revelations about the events that could occur in 2025. Many of these testimonies come from people who claim to have had prophetic visions during moments of deep meditation or prayer. One example is individuals who claim to have experienced visions while attending spiritual retreats or religious events. These accounts often describe apocalyptic scenes with natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and fires that would devastate the planet. In addition, there are those who claim to have received messages from religious or spiritual figures suggesting that 2025 will be a crucial turning point in human history, where humanity will face great tribulations before a possible redemption. In other traditions, people report vivid dreams and visions in which they experience a sense of awakening. For these individuals, 2025 is not seen as a year of destruction, but of spiritual enlightenment. Many believe that in 2025, humanity will be called to a great shift in consciousness, aligning itself more with the universe and spirituality. These testimonies describe an age of light, where humanity will overcome its old addictions and connect more deeply and meaningfully with nature and each other, a kind of global spiritual renewal. Among those who have had these experiences, some claim that the visions of 2025 came to them during moments of intense personal crisis. These accounts suggest that individuals were experiencing emotional, spiritual, or psychological difficulties when they experienced their visions of the future. For many, the vision of a chaotic and transformative future is not just an external prophecy, but a metaphor for an internal transformation. The belief is that in order for humanity to change, each person must undergo a process of purification and personal growth, something that would reflect the global changes predicted for 2025. The most fascinating aspect of many of these accounts is how they often coincide with historical events, such as climate change, economic crises, or global political tensions. For example, some people claim to have received visions of a future where the planet's natural resources would be severely compromised, resulting in major wars over water, food, and energy. These testimonies are often interpreted as a form of spiritual warning, where humanity is invited to change its ways before it is too late, and 2025 becomes the year in which this transformation needs to occur. Another common claim among those who claim to have visions of 2025 involves the rise of a new spiritual or political leader. These individuals speak of the emergence of a world leader who will help guide humanity into a new era of peace and harmony. This leader is seen by many as a messianic or charismatic figure who will bring healing to the planet, whether through a spiritual rebirth or a change in global governance. The belief is that after a period of tribulation, this leader will emerge to restore order and establish a new world of unity and cooperation. However, there are also reports that suggest a darker outlook for 2025. Some testimonies point to increased violence, the collapse of institutions, and a period of great suffering for humanity. These reports are often accompanied by feelings of helplessness, where people feel that external forces are beyond their control. For these individuals, the message of 2025 is clear. Humanity is at a critical point where drastic change is inevitable, and people must prepare for difficult times before renewal can occur. Interestingly, in many of these accounts, people are not talking about a literal apocalypse, but rather about a process of transformation that involves both destruction and reconstruction. These experiences are deeply connected to the belief that before any new era can dawn, a period of destruction and renewal must occur. This concept of death and rebirth is recurrent in many religions and spiritual philosophies, and for many who hold these views, 2025 represents not the end, but rather a new beginning for humanity. The growing popularity of these accounts also reflects a growing interest in spiritual and esoteric themes in modern society. In a world increasingly marked by uncertainty and global crises, people seem to be seeking deeper explanations for the events unfolding around them. The 2025 prophecies offer a way to make sense of these crises, often in a way that connects personal events to a larger cosmic process. These testimonies then become a way to deal with fear and anxiety about the future, offering hope for transformation amidst the chaos. However, not everyone believes that these testimonies have any basis in fact. Many skeptics point out that these experiences can be attributed to psychological factors, such as the desire to find answers to suffering or the fear of the unknown. The idea that 2025 will be a pivotal year may for some be a projection of our own anxieties about the environmental, social, and economic crises we are facing. Rather than being divine messages, these testimonies could be a reflection of the human need to make sense of difficult times. The question, then, is not just whether the 2025 prophecies are true or false, but what impact they have on the way people see the future. These stories make us reflect on what we are doing to prepare for the future and whether the changes we are experiencing are a preparation for something bigger. Are apocalyptic prophecies a way of warning us about the dangers of continuing on our current path? Or perhaps they are a way of inspiring us to create a better, more balanced and conscious future. As we move into the next topic, it is interesting to note how these experiences connect with the impact of biblical prophecy on the modern world. How do the Bible and its predictions influence people's spiritual views and experiences of 2025? What can we learn from the interpretation of these ancient prophecies, and how do they continue to shape our collective perception of the future? We will explore this in the next segment, where we will discuss the impact of biblical prophecy on today's society and how it continues to resonate in our understanding of the future. Did you know that biblical prophecies, especially those that speak of the end times, continue to profoundly influence the decisions and beliefs of millions of people in the modern world? Even in an age dominated by science and reason, many people still look to Scripture for answers to global uncertainties and present-day challenges. But what exactly makes these ancient prophecies continue to resonate so powerfully? And more importantly, how do they shape our understanding of the future, especially as we look toward the year 2025? One reason biblical prophecy still carries such weight in the modern world is its universal and timeless nature. The book of Revelation, for example, speaks of a struggle between good and evil, natural disasters, and the return of a Savior. These powerful images speak directly to our fear of destruction and our desire for redemption. The issues the Bible raises about the future, such as wars, plagues, and global chaos, continue to align with modern crises such as global warming, political tensions, and pandemics. For many, biblical prophecy seems not only relevant, but prescient. Furthermore, the Bible has been used as a tool to explain and even justify historical and social events. During times of war and crisis, especially in recent decades, many religious leaders and apocalyptic movements have cited Scripture as an explanation for turbulent times. They claim that the catastrophes we are witnessing are in fact the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, which strengthens their followers' faith in the idea that a new world is about to emerge. This interpretation can be powerful as it offers a sense of purpose and control in an increasingly uncertain global landscape. In many cases, biblical prophecies also influence modern politics. Leaders of different countries, particularly those with strong religious roots, often reference Scripture when making important decisions about war, peace, and governance. Belief in an imminent end times can influence policies related to defense, national security, and even climate change, as if these issues were being addressed in light of the fulfillment of divine prophecy. Furthermore, contemporary religious movements that draw on biblical prophecy often use these apocalyptic visions as a catalyst for political and social engagement. As we look at the impact of biblical prophecies on the modern world, we can't help but wonder how they relate to more futuristic and scientific visions of what's to come. While biblical prophecies speak of spiritual transformation and divine cataclysms, the predictions of scientists and futurists focus on technological evolution and artificial intelligence. Can biblical prophecies about the apocalypse be reconciled with these new scientific visions? Or are we on the cusp of a new era of innovation that will redefine humanity? We'll explore this in the next segment, looking at the futuristic and scientific prophecies that are shaping our understanding of the future. Part 4. Futuristic and Scientific Prophecies. Did you know that some of the world's leading futurologists believe that humanity is just decades away from a radical transformation that will redefine what it means to be human? Futuristic predictions about artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and the exponential advancement of technology are no longer science fiction. For many, they are about to become reality. But what do these futurists really predict for the immediate future? And are we prepared for the changes they foresee, especially considering the social and ethical implications of these innovations? Futurologists such as Ray Kurzweil, Michio Kaku, and others have been talking about what they call the singularity, a point in the future when artificial intelligence will become more advanced than the human mind. Kurzweil, one of the most prominent futurists, predicts that this transformation will occur around 2045, but others, such as Kaku, believe that significant events that predict this shift will begin to occur earlier, with 2025 as the milestone. The singularity is seen as the point at which machines not only assist, but also make decisions and control significant aspects of our lives, surpassing human intelligence in almost every way. These futurists aren't just talking about artificial intelligence, but also about the possibilities of biotechnology. With advances in genetic engineering like CRISPR, many futurists believe that in the near future, we will be able to edit human DNA to cure diseases, slow aging, and even enhance human intellectual and physical capabilities. The promise of improving the human species through these technologies raises complex ethical questions, but it also sparks a fascinating debate about what defines human nature in the 21st century. By 2025, many believe these technologies will be accessible and in widespread use, changing social structures and power dynamics. Another area of futuristic predictions that is attracting attention is artificial intelligence applied to healthcare. Many futurists predict that within the next few decades, we will be able to use AI for extremely accurate medical diagnoses, personalized treatments, and even the regeneration of human tissue. Companies are investing heavily in research to develop artificial organs and treatments that could increase human longevity. While there is great excitement about these innovations, there are also concerns about the implications of an AI-driven healthcare system, which could be both a revolution and a trap for those who do not have access to these technologies. At the same time, evolving technology is creating new opportunities for human interconnection. Futurists like Kevin Kelly believe we are on the cusp of an era where the Internet of Things, IoT, and wearable technologies will allow us to be more connected than ever before, both with other people and with the systems that control our world. The idea of a hive brain, where the human mind is digitally interconnected on a global scale, is increasingly being discussed as a real possibility. And 2025 could be the year we start to see the first signs of such interconnection on a massive scale. While futuristic predictions are exciting, there's also a darker side to what technology could bring in the future. Increased digital surveillance, control of information, and the potential for data manipulation by large corporations and governments create a potentially dystopian scenario. Many futurists warn that if proper regulation is not implemented, artificial intelligence and surveillance technology could be used to restrict individual freedoms and concentrate power in unprecedented ways. By 2025, a scenario where privacy is virtually non-existent and individual freedom is at risk could become a reality for many. Furthermore, increasing automation could cause massive disruption in the labor market. The advance of artificial intelligence and robotics, which futurists such as Kurzweil and Elon Musk predict will occur in the coming years, could result in massive job losses in sectors such as manufacturing, transportation, and even service industries. The replacement of human workers by intelligent machines could create a new economic paradigm where the distribution of wealth and resources will need to be rethought. The idea of a universal basic income, proposed by some futurists, could be seen as a solution to the economic effects of this mass automation. But what's even more intriguing is how these futuristic predictions are shaping the way younger generations see the future. Young people around the world are increasingly engaging with emerging technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology, and many are beginning to envision a world where these advances are commonplace in everyday life. For these younger generations, predictions about 2025 and beyond are not just distant scenarios, but a promise of a more efficient, healthy, and interconnected future. Adapting to these new realities will undoubtedly be a challenge, but also an opportunity for growth and innovation for humanity. With so many possibilities on the horizon, it's clear that predictions about the future are not just about what might happen, but also about what we should do to prepare for these changes. How can societies adapt to technological advances without sacrificing equity, freedom, and individual rights? Futurists argue for the need for a new kind of global governance where technology and ethics work together to ensure that the benefits of innovation are distributed fairly. The question now is, how do we begin to implement these changes, and how does 2025 fit into that process? As futuristic predictions become increasingly accurate and possible, questions arise about how humanity will cope with the rapid pace of technological change. The singularity, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence could represent a major breakthrough, but they could also mean a loss of control over our own destiny. The future that futurists foresee is full of promise, but also fraught with challenges. What can we do to ensure that these innovations do not become a threat to our freedom and humanity? In the next segment, we will explore the singularity and the impact it may have on the future of humanity, examining how these technological predictions could shape our destiny. Did you know that within a few decades, artificial intelligence could become more intelligent than humans, radically altering the nature of our existence? This concept, known as the singularity, is one of the most debated topics in the field of futurology. Some of the world's greatest thinkers, such as Ray Kurzweil, believe that technology will reach a point where machines will be able to improve themselves without human intervention. But what does this mean for the future of humanity? Are we ready for the revolution that is coming? The singularity is described as the moment when artificial intelligence will surpass human intelligence in every aspect, not only in terms of processing power, but also in creativity, innovation, and the ability to make complex decisions. Many futurists predict that once machines begin to improve themselves, the pace of technological advancement will be exponential. This could result in innovations that we cannot even imagine today. The arrival of the singularity could thus usher in an era of unprecedented progress, but it could also present significant challenges, such as the loss of human control over such powerful systems. Kurzweil, one of the most vocal proponents of the singularity, predicts that the event will occur around 2045, but others believe it could happen much sooner, perhaps as early as 2025. He bases his predictions on the law of accelerating returns, which notes how technological progress has been accelerating at an ever-increasing rate, especially in the areas of artificial intelligence and computing. What was unthinkable a few decades ago, such as the development of machines capable of learning on their own, is now within our reach. The real question is, will humanity be prepared for the consequences of creating machines that are smarter than ourselves? As machines become more intelligent, they will begin to take on roles in many areas of society. Automation, for example, could eliminate millions of jobs, as many tasks that currently require human skills will be performed more efficiently by AI. Medicine, education, law, and even art could all be dominated by intelligent systems that offer faster, more accurate, and more innovative solutions than humans can. This raises questions about the relevance of human labor and how people will support themselves in a world where machines do most of the work. But the singularity isn't just about smarter machines. It's also about the fusion of human and machine. Kurzweil and other futurists believe that in order for humans to keep up with the technological revolution, we will be forced to integrate AI into our own bodies and minds. This could involve brain implants, advanced prosthetics, and even the possibility of uploading our consciousness into a digital system. This idea of human enhancement challenges our conception of what it means to be human and opens up a profound ethical debate about how far we should go in trying to transcend our biology. In addition to advances in AI, the singularity is also linked to the development of nanotechnology and biotechnology. These fields allow us to manipulate matter on a molecular scale, potentially creating new life forms, genetically curing diseases, and even extending human life in ways that today seem like science fiction. With the advent of artificial intelligence, these advances could be exponentially boosted, leading us to a future where diseases that are currently incurable can be easily treated and death as we know it can be avoided. But with this comes the question: who will have access to these technologies and who will be left behind? Many singularity skeptics warn of the risks of this transformation. They believe that creating self-aware, self-enhancing AI could result in a scenario where we lose control. If machines become so advanced that they no longer need our supervision, they could become a threat to humanity. Even optimistic futurists like Kurzweil acknowledge that the singularity poses potential risks, such as the creation of systems that, while intelligent, do not share human values and principles. How can we ensure that by creating beings that are more intelligent than we are not putting our own existence at risk? Another significant challenge is the social inequality that may arise with the implementation of these technologies. Who will the singularity serve? If only a small elite have access to the most advanced technologies such as AI and biotechnological enhancement, this could further exacerbate economic and social inequalities in the world. The promise of a technologically advanced utopia may be an illusion, where the benefits of the singularity are enjoyed by only a small portion of the population, while the majority is left behind. This disparity could generate new types of conflict and social tensions, challenging the idea of a more just and equitable future. As the debate about the singularity continues to rage, one question remains at the heart of all discussions. Are we truly ready for the changes it will bring? If the singularity occurs, it could transform humanity in ways that are difficult to comprehend today. Can we control the evolution of artificial intelligence in an ethical and safe way? Or will machines eventually dominate the future, irreversibly altering our society and our values? What awaits us in the coming years will undoubtedly be a turning point in human history. The singularity is not just a technological question, it is also a philosophical and ethical question. How can we ensure that artificial intelligence follows the principles we consider fundamental to human well-being? Many of these questions are addressed by philosophers of technology who are trying to predict the social and cultural impacts of AI before the singularity becomes a reality. The future of humanity may depend on our ability to understand and anticipate these impacts, ensuring that we can guide this revolution in ways that benefit everyone. As technology advances and the idea of a future marked by the singularity looms, a new question arises. Will people be willing to embrace these changes, or will they resist technological advancement? The prospect of merging with machines and transcending biological limitations may be appealing to some, but frightening to others. In a world where AI is already playing a central role in our daily lives, the question will be, can we find a balance between maintaining our humanity and embracing the advantages that technology offers? Now, as we look to the future of humanity as the singularity approaches, the question arises, How will these technological advances actually be applied, and how will they affect our daily lives? Many scientists are already witnessing the first signs of these changes. In the next segment, we will explore the experiences and stories of scientists and experts who are at the forefront of this technological revolution. How are the latest discoveries shaping our expectations for the future? Did you know that over the past few decades, scientists have witnessed technological advances so rapid that it often feels like we're living in an era of science fiction? From self-learning artificial intelligence to machines that can perform complex tasks more accurately than humans, technological innovations are rapidly changing our world. But how are scientists themselves reacting to these developments? Are they optimistic about the future, or are they worried about the impact these changes could have on society? Many scientists are deeply involved in the development of artificial intelligence and how these machines can be used to improve our lives. One notable example comes from OpenAI, the organization that developed models like GPT, which you're using right now. These systems are designed to understand and generate human language, and the impact of this is huge. Scientists like OpenAI co-founder Sam Altman believe that AI could be a game changer for humanity, bringing huge benefits in areas like healthcare, education, and productivity. But he's also warned about the risks of creating advanced AI without proper oversight and ethics, which could lead to unforeseen and dangerous impacts. In one of the most advanced areas of research, scientists are working to create machines that can enhance the human body. Biotechnology has made impressive progress, with scientists creating robotic prosthetics that can be controlled directly by the brain, enabling more effective recovery from serious injuries. One example of this comes from experiments using brain implants, where paralyzed patients were able to control robotic arms with their thoughts. These advances, while impressive, raise questions about the ethical limits of manipulating the human body and how far we should go in our quest to improve human biology. Another area where scientists are making significant progress is in the area of synthetic biology, where scientists are literally creating living organisms from synthetic molecules. Creating new life forms designed to solve problems like pollution and resource scarcity is becoming a possibility that is becoming more concrete. The idea of genetically modifying organisms to perform specific tasks, such as cleaning up oceans or generating energy, is getting closer to becoming a reality. However, these discoveries also raise concerns about creating organisms that could become uncontrollable, or that could have unintended consequences for natural ecosystems. While some scientists are excited about the potential for a more connected, technologically enhanced society, others are cautious. Elon Musk, for example, one of AI's most vocal advocates, is also known for his concerns about the risks of the technology. Musk has warned that artificial intelligence could become so powerful that it could pose an existential threat to humanity, if not effectively regulated. He is one of many scientists who believe that while AI has the potential to do good, there is also a danger that it could be used for destructive purposes, whether by governments or corporations. In addition to AI and biotechnology, another revolutionary field is quantum computing. Scientists like John Preskill and other researchers in the field of quantum physics believe that quantum computing could be the key to solving complex problems in seconds, such as process optimization, cryptography, and even medical breakthroughs. Although quantum computing is still in its early stages, scientists are making remarkable progress. However, they also know that the technology could pose a major challenge to global security, as it could be used to break encryption systems that are currently considered invulnerable. However, not all scientists are optimistic about the changes these technologies could bring. Some technology ethicists, such as philosopher Nick Bostrom, warn of the existential risks that come with the advancement of AI and disruptive technologies. Bostrom argues that without effective global governance, emerging technologies could be developed irresponsibly, leading to a loss of control over systems that could have catastrophic implications for humanity. The question of who controls these technologies and how they are regulated will be key to ensuring that the benefits are shared fairly and the risks are mitigated. Scientists are also concerned about the acceleration of automation and its impact on the job market. With the advent of more advanced AI and robots capable of performing a variety of human functions, many people fear that millions of jobs will be lost. While futurists suggest that new opportunities will emerge, many scientists warn that the transition could be painful, especially if social and economic structures do not adapt quickly to these changes. The growing inequality between those who have access to these new technologies and those who are left behind is a growing concern. While technological innovations offer many promises for a better future, they also generate intense debate about control and accountability. Scientists like AI expert Timnit Gebru are calling for a more inclusive and ethical approach to technology development. The future of AI and biotechnology should not be decided by the most powerful or by large corporations alone, but by global collaboration that embraces a diversity of perspectives and values. A lack of regulation could result in a future dominated by a small number of powerful entities, which could exacerbate existing inequalities. As technology continues to advance, a central question arises. What does it mean to be human in a world where technology can alter and enhance our bodies and minds? Scientists and philosophers are asking how far humanity should go in its quest for technological transcendence. The possibilities offered by these technologies require all of us to rethink what it means to live in a world increasingly controlled by artificial intelligence and machines. The arrival of this new technological era could redefine the nature of the human experience. As artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and quantum computing gain traction, scientists are asking, are we prepared for the ethical and social challenges that these advances pose? If the testimonies of experts and scientists are any indication, the future will be a time of great transformation, but also great challenges. The question now is how to balance the benefits of these innovations with the risks they may pose to society. In the next segment, we will explore the impact of these futuristic innovations on the modern world and how prophecies about the future are shaping our responses to these technologies. Did you know that while futuristic prophecies are constantly being discussed, they have a direct and profound impact on how we shape our political, social, and economic decisions? Many futurists, such as Ray Kurzweil, Michio Kaku, and Elon Musk, predict a future of exponential innovation that seems to be right around the corner. However, while these predictions may sound exciting, they also generate widespread fear about the future. What happens when society begins to blindly believe that we are destined for a new apocalypse or a technological revolution? These futuristic prophecies have a significant psychological impact on people. When public figures and renowned scientists announce grand visions of the future, they often trigger a response of fear or hope in people, depending on how the prophecies are interpreted. The promised future can be an era of prosperity, but it can also be chaos with increasing social inequality, jobs being replaced by robots, and a loss of control over our own lives. Predictions for 2025, for example, fuel both anxiety and the expectation that the year will bring about major change. But will that change be for the better or for the worse? Furthermore, futuristic predictions are also often used to justify public policy and economic decisions. When the promise of technological advances is seen as inevitable, governments and companies can be led to invest heavily in innovations without considering the social and ethical implications. Increased control over personal data, mass surveillance, and reliance on AI for government decisions are just a few examples of how these predictions can have a tangible impact on people's lives. Many argue that we are moving towards a dystopian future where privacy and individual freedom will be reduced in the name of progress. But there is also a positive side to futuristic prophecies. They inspire innovation and progress, encouraging scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs to seek solutions to the big problems of the future, such as climate change, disease, and world hunger. The vision of a future where technology can eliminate poverty or cure incurable diseases motivates new generations to work in cutting-edge fields. But this vision also raises questions about who controls these technologies and who benefits from them. As technology advances, will the promise of a better future be accessible to everyone or only to a global elite? As we move closer to a future shaped by these futuristic predictions, questions about what lies ahead continue to grow. Will we be able to manage these advances ethically and equitably? Or will the prophecies of technological apocalypse come true, with humanity losing control over its own creations? In the next segment, we'll delve into the conspiracy theories that have emerged around these predictions and explore the unresolved prophecies that continue to fuel fear and fascination about the future. What can conspiracies reveal about our greatest fears about what's to come? Part 5. Conspiracy Theories and Unresolved Prophecies. Have you heard of the Great Reset? A concept that has gained global prominence during the pandemic, suggesting that we are on the verge of a complete reconfiguration of the planet's economy and social structures. But what exactly does it mean? According to theorists and economists, the Great Reset is a response to global crises such as climate change, economic inequality, and growing political instability. But is it an opportunity to transform the world in a more just way? Or is it a ploy to concentrate even more power in the hands of a global elite? The term Great Reset was popularized by the World Economic Forum, WEF, where high-profile figures such as Klaus Schwab discussed the need to reshape global economies to make them more inclusive and sustainable. The central idea is that following the 2008 financial crisis and the challenges posed by the pandemic, the world needs to rethink its economic, social, and political models to avoid a future collapse. The Great Reset agenda involves a transition to a greener economy where renewable energy replaces fossil fuels and social welfare policies are more widely adopted. However, the Great Reset is also seen by many as a movement that seeks to centralize economic and political power. Critics point out that rather than being a solution to global inequalities, it could further reinforce the control of large corporations and international banks, limiting the sovereignty of nations and individual freedom. The idea of a stakeholder capitalism, where companies must serve a range of interests beyond their shareholders, is viewed with suspicion by those who believe it may just be a facade to increase the power of global elites. Is the Great Reset an opportunity for a fair recovery or a scheme to consolidate a new world order? In addition to its economic implications, the Great Reset also involves a massive digital transformation. Many theorists suggest that rather than simply restructuring capitalism, the reset could involve the introduction of a fully digital economic system with centralized digital currencies and unprecedented surveillance over populations. The increasing digitalization of the economy with the implementation of technologies such as blockchain and centralized cryptocurrencies could result in a new model of global control where privacy and individual freedoms are further compromised. Proponents of the Great Reset argue that without a drastic change in the way societies are structured, humanity is doomed to face increasingly intense crises. Income and wealth inequality, for example, is at historic levels, with a small elite controlling most of the planet's resources. The Great Reset, according to its proponents, would be a way to correct these disparities, creating a more just and equitable system for future generations. Such a transformation would, however, require global collaboration, something that, in practice, may be difficult to achieve due to the diversity of interests across countries and cultures. However, the proposal for a more cooperative and interconnected global system raises questions about global governance. How can a global governance system be truly representative, especially when so many cultures and political systems differ in their core values? The idea of global governance to implement the Great Reset can be seen as a threat to national sovereignty, with many questioning the ability of a global elite to serve the interests of all nations. This type of centralized power has been the focus of conspiracy theories about a new world order, which we will look at in more detail in the next segment. The concept of a welfare economy is also at the heart of the Great Reset. Rather than a system based solely on profit and economic growth, proponents of this movement advocate for a society that focuses more on people's quality of life and well-being. This would include more robust healthcare, education, and a stronger social safety net. However, critics argue that such policies could be a way to expand government control, making society even more dependent on the state for its livelihoods. In such a scenario, individuals could lose the freedom to make their own choices and be forced to submit to a new system of control. With the Great Reset, many believe we will see a transformation in the dynamics of the labor market. Automation and artificial intelligence will play an even bigger role in the global economy, replacing a large portion of the human workforce. The idea that automation can be beneficial for all is not shared by everyone, especially by those who fear that it will increase inequality and reduce opportunities for millions of workers. Instead of a world of abundance and prosperity, the Great Reset could lead to a reality where jobs are replaced by machines, and society is further divided between the few who control technology and the many who are left behind. Implementing the Great Reset will require a radical restructuring of the global economy with the redistribution of resources and the reconfiguration of value chains. Some believe this could result in a fairer economic recovery, where everyone has access to the benefits of globally generated wealth. Others, however, fear that this redistribution will be unequal, with the richest countries and large corporations having the most say and power in the process. The question of who will make the decisions and how they will affect the poorest and most vulnerable will be a crucial point to watch. As the concept of a Great Reset gains momentum, it also generates growing resistance. Many see the idea as a threat to the way of life we have built over the past few decades, and rightly so. The proposed changes may seem radical, and fears that individual freedom will be sacrificed for the greater good are palpable. For opponents, the Great Reset is not a solution to the world's problems, but rather a way to consolidate power and control in the hands of a few, while the rest of the population suffers the consequences of this forced transformation. As discussions around the Great Reset intensify, the question arises as to how far these changes can be implemented without major conflict. The differing views of what is best for the world are vast, and the challenges of trying to align global policies and interests can be immense. The success or failure of the Great Reset depends on global collaboration, which for now seems unlikely. But as we delve deeper into the impact of a possible New World Order, it is worth considering what is really at stake in the process of global transformation. With the issues of global governance and the impact of the Great Reset on the global future in mind, the next step will be to explore how the idea of a New World Order connects to these changes. What does this actually mean for national sovereignty and global control? Get ready to see how the theory of the New World Order could be a key piece in the puzzle of the future. Did you know that the concept of a New World Order, NWO, has been circulating for decades, fueling speculation about a global conspiracy to create a single, centralized, totalitarian government? For many, this idea sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but for others, it is an imminent reality. With the rise of globalization and surveillance technologies, the NWO is being discussed more intensely, with theorists claiming that global elites are shaping this new system to control nations and people on an unprecedented level. But to what extent is this real? And to what extent do these ideas reflect our fears and anxieties about the future? The concept of a New World Order emerged shortly after World War II, with some of the earliest references made by leaders such as U.S. President George H.W. Bush, who spoke of a New World Order after the end of the Cold War. Since then, a number of conspiracy theories have suggested that a global elite made up of billionaires, politicians, and corporations are working together to create a one-world government. The idea is that with a single authority controlling the planet, major global issues such as climate change and economic crises could be dealt with more effectively. However, critics say this would represent a loss of national sovereignty and individual freedoms. Many NWO advocates believe that a centralized global government is necessary to address global challenges in a more coordinated way. This includes addressing issues such as social inequality, climate change, and financial crises that affect different countries unequally. For these individuals, NWO would be a logical solution where a single authority could make quick and effective decisions in the name of global well-being. However, for others, this idea raises ethical questions, particularly about the concentration of power in the hands of a few, which could result in a form of global dictatorship where human rights and democracy would be compromised. On the other hand, NWO theory is also strongly linked to the growing power of multinational corporations and technology. Large companies such as Google, Facebook, and Amazon have immense amounts of data about individuals, which allows them to influence political and social decisions on a global scale. This control over information is a central feature of NWO theories, as these companies can be seen as private governments that have as much power as national governments. By centralizing information and controlling the flow of data, these corporations have the ability to shape public opinion and even influence electoral processes. The increasing digitalization of the economy is also linked to these discussions of global control. With the use of cryptocurrencies, digital banking systems, and centralized digital currencies, such as China's digital yuan, many fear that a fully digitized global economic system could be the key to creating the NWO. The use of a digital currency controlled by a central authority, for example, would allow for an unprecedented level of monitoring and control over financial transactions, making every aspect of an individual's life traceable. Critics say this represents a dystopian future where citizens would lose their financial freedom and their ability to act outside the system. In some cases, the concept of NWO is also related to issues of global security and the creation of a global police force. With increasing geopolitical tensions, such as disputes between great powers like the United States and China, some believe that the formation of a global security force is necessary to ensure peace and prevent conflict. However, many see it as a form of military control over populations, where citizens would lose their right to self-determination and defense against abuses of power. This idea of a superstate with authority over matters of security, finance, and international politics is central to many NWO theories. Another key point in theories about the NWO is the use of technology to control the masses. Mass surveillance, the collection of personal data, and the use of algorithms to manipulate social behavior are often cited as the mechanisms that these elites would use to maintain control. The use of AI and monitoring systems, such as facial recognition cameras and devices connected to the Internet of Things (IoT), could transform society into a panopticon where privacy disappears. This scenario of absolute control is at the heart of many discussions about the NWO, leading citizens to question the limits of privacy and freedom in the near future. The issue of global governance is also closely linked to political and social movements. Groups that advocate greater integration between countries, such as pro-European Union movements or advocates of a democratic global government, often face resistance from those who fear that this is the first step towards NWO. These movements argue that international cooperation is essential to solving global problems, but critics fear that these initial steps towards greater global governance will end up being used to concentrate power in the hands of a few without proper democratic control. In times of crisis, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, discussions about global control have intensified even further. The use of digital passports, the centralization of health information, and the implementation of movement control measures such as lockdowns have sparked discussions about how governments and corporations can use emergencies to justify the implementation of increasingly stringent control systems. For many, these events are a clear example of how, under the guise of security and well-being, individual freedoms can be permanently restricted, creating the conditions for a future dominated by an authoritarian system. The popularity of NWO theories is also due to growing skepticism toward government and corporate institutions. In a world where trust in political and economic elites is declining, many people turn to these theories as an explanation for what they perceive as increasing control over their lives. Distrust of governments, especially when they implement policies that can be seen as invasive, such as data collection and mass surveillance, fuels fears that a NWO is indeed at work, slowly taking shape and gaining momentum. While some view the ideas of a new world order as a baseless conspiracy, others believe that these concepts offer a plausible explanation for the drastic changes we are seeing in the political, economic, and social landscape. Fear of losing personal freedoms and national sovereignty fuels resistance to this idea, creating fertile ground for the growth of conspiracy theories. But is the NWO really an imminent threat? Or are we simply dealing with the projection of our own fears onto an uncertain future? As discussions about the New World Order and global control continue to evolve, questions about the impact of these theories on our daily lives become more relevant. What does it mean to live in a world where privacy, freedom, and self-determination are at risk? How can societies protect themselves against the advance of global control without sacrificing the cooperation needed to solve global problems? In the next segment, we will explore the psychological and social impact of these conspiracy theories and how they influence the way we perceive our future. Did you know that according to studies, up to 30% of the world's population believes in at least one conspiracy theory, and this number is increasing every year? The psychological and social impact of these beliefs is profound, affecting not only individual perceptions of reality, but also social and political dynamics. Why do these theories have such appeal, and what does this say about our modern society? The answer involves a mix of fear, misinformation, and growing distrust of traditional institutions, creating fertile ground for these theories to flourish. Conspiracy theories, such as those involving the New World Order or the Great Reset, offer simple explanations for complex problems. In times of crisis, such as during pandemics, economic disasters, or drastic political changes, the human mind seeks quick, clear answers. These uncertain scenarios leave many people feeling powerless, and conspiracy theories become a way to reconnect a sense of control. They provide a narrative of how the world really works, often with a clear villain, which can be psychologically comforting for those seeking an explanation for the chaos. Furthermore, social media plays a crucial role in spreading these beliefs. Digital platforms create filter bubbles where people are only exposed to content that reinforces their pre-existing views. This strengthens belief in conspiracy theories, making it increasingly difficult for individuals to access balanced, evidence-based information. As misinformation goes viral, many people distance themselves from scientific reality and embrace alternative explanations that seem more satisfying on an emotional level, but which have serious consequences for critical thinking. The social impact of these beliefs is equally significant. Conspiracy theories can divide communities and families, creating distrust between individuals. Those who believe in these theories often feel disconnected from the wider society, leading to increasing alienation. This alienation can even affect political behavior, with individuals more likely to engage in anti-establishment movements, while traditional institutions and governments are seen as corrupt or manipulative. The strengthening of these beliefs can result in a destabilization of social and political relations at local and global levels. In addition to social alienation, conspiracy theories can also have a direct psychological impact. They generate high levels of anxiety, paranoia, and fear. For those who believe that there is a global conspiracy at work, such as elite control or planning for an imminent apocalypse, the constant state of alert can be exhausting. This creates a vicious cycle in which individuals feel constantly threatened, which can affect their mental health, causing stress, insomnia, and even depression. Studies also show that those who strongly believe in conspiracy theories tend to be more cynical about traditional sources of information, such as the media and governments. This fuels a generalized distrust, making it harder to promote public policies based on consensus and science. Instead of trusting institutions such as the World Health Organization, WHO, or local governments, these individuals often turn to unverified sources and outside influences, creating a scenario of fragmentation of truth and social trust. On the other hand, there are those who see conspiracy theories as a form of resistance to the status quo, especially in societies where inequality and corruption are prevalent. For some, these beliefs are a way to challenge the power of large corporations and governments, offering an alternative to the established model. In countries with authoritarian regimes or where freedom of expression is limited, conspiracy theories can even serve as a means of symbolic resistance, providing a form of expression in an environment where open discourse is restricted. The phenomenon of conspiracy theories can also be related to the concept of identity. Many people who believe in these theories incorporate them into their own identities, creating a sense of belonging to an exclusive group that knows the truth. This creates a strong emotional motivation to continue defending these beliefs even in the face of contrary evidence. Belonging to a community that shares these views can provide psychological support, especially for those who feel that the traditional system has marginalized them. Furthermore, conspiracy theories can be seen as a way of dealing with the complex and the unknown. In an increasingly interconnected and turbulent world, people have difficulty processing the magnitude of information they receive on a daily basis. Theories such as those involving the Great Reset or the New World Order simplify these complexities, offering explanations that seem easy to understand, but often distort reality. This can be comforting for those seeking clear answers to existential or political questions. The growing influence of conspiracy theories is also having an impact on future generations. Education and teaching critical thinking skills are essential to help children and young people develop the ability to discern between verified information and misinformation. If left unaddressed, this phenomenon could lead to a society where truth is subjective and decisions are made based on unfounded beliefs, creating a cycle of ongoing misinformation. The future will depend on how education adapts to prepare younger generations to deal with this new type of informational challenge. The psychological and social impact of conspiracy theories goes beyond issues of misinformation. They alter the way people interact with the world and with others, leading to a growing disconnect from shared reality. But how do these beliefs influence our actions in the real world? The next segment will help us understand how these ideas translate into concrete actions and the impact they have on society, by exploring in more depth the behavior of individuals and groups who believe in conspiracy theories. Conclusion: did you know that throughout history, many cultures and brilliant minds have predicted a transformative future for the year 2025? From Nostradamus, with his enigmatic verses, to futuristic theories about artificial intelligence and the Great Reset, The year 2025 stands out as a turning point, both for prophecies that speak of catastrophes and those that foresee radical advances. But what do these predictions really say about us as a society, and what should we expect from the future? Will we be witnessing a great change, or are we just constructing a narrative to deal with our own fears and uncertainties? The prophecies of figures like Nostradamus, associated with great cataclysms and global transformations, continue to echo today, fueling the collective imagination. At the same time, futuristic theories about artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and the Great Reset present us with a future of unknown advances and dangers. Apocalyptic predictions mix with the vision of a more connected, advanced, and sustainable humanity, which generates a mix of optimism and fear. What all these prophecies have in common is that they speak of a future that is in some way beyond our control, but that forces us to reflect on who we are and where we are going. Reflecting on the implications of these prophecies, we might question the role they play in our vision of the future. Predictions can be seen as a reflection of our own insecurities, fears, and desires for control, especially in times of global uncertainty. Climate crises, political tensions, and rapid technological advances create a scenario of apprehension that leads us to search for explanations that make sense of an increasingly unpredictable world. Rather than just passively waiting for these prophecies to unfold, perhaps we should use them as an invitation to take action and shape the future we desire, rather than fear what it may bring. The truth is that for centuries, humanity has projected its hopes and fears into predictions about the future. Whether in the enigmatic texts of Nostradamus, in the theories of futurists about the impact of artificial intelligence, or in the shadows of the New World Order, all these prophecies have something in common. They force us to face the future as something grand and transformative. The reality, however, is that the future is not written in quatrains or secret codes. It is shaped by the actions we take now. Therefore, prophecies can serve as a mirror, reflecting our own fears and ambitions, but not as an inevitable destiny. But are we really prepared for 2025? In a world of rapid technological advances, extreme climate change, and an unstable global political landscape, it's easy to believe that something big is about to happen. However, it's important to remember that many of these predictions are simply projections of our anxieties about the unknown. We are living in a time of transition, and fear of what lies ahead can make us think that the future will necessarily be dramatic or apocalyptic. But what can we do now to positively influence the future? We must act responsibly, consciously, and innovatively to ensure that 2025 is a milestone of progress, not despair. Prophecies, then, can be seen as a reflection of our quest for control over an unpredictable future. They make us reflect on what we want as a society and what we can do to avoid the worst-case scenarios they suggest. At the same time, they invite us to question the values that are shaping our reality today. Are we prepared to embrace the changes that will come with the rise of technology and environmental crises? Or are we so obsessed with predictions of doom that we miss opportunities to improve the world around us? The truth is that more than a warning about the future, prophecies can be a way for us to reflect on what we need to change in the present. They remind us that the future is not fixed, but is something we can shape with our collective choices and actions. We must question the narratives that are presented to us and, instead of waiting for an apocalypse, work to create a more just, sustainable, and humane future. What we need is not more prophecies, but more action based on knowledge and empathy to ensure that tomorrow is better than we imagined. In this uncertain environment, it is crucial that we are critical and conscious when consuming and sharing these theories. We must learn to distinguish between speculation and fact, between hope and fear, and use the knowledge we have to shape a more positive future. Instead of giving in to the temptation to be consumed by predictions of the end, we can look to prophecies as a starting point for deeper reflection on how our choices shape the world we live in. What comes next is up to us. In the end, what really matters is the action we take today to ensure that the future is worthy of our hopes. Prophecies can be revealing, but more importantly, they challenge us to build a world that is capable of dealing with the challenges that lie ahead. Rather than fearing the future, we should be prepared to act with knowledge, courage, and creativity. Now is the time to ask ourselves, are we truly ready for 2025, or will we simply continue to create our own narratives about what lies ahead? Ultimately, prophecies, whether of destruction or rebirth, should not be a reason for paralysis or fear, but rather an invitation to reflection and action. We can take control of the future by adapting to change and facing challenges wisely. Instead of passively waiting for the future, we must be the agents of the transformation we desire. What will happen in 2025 will depend on the choices we make today. How do you intend to shape the future? In short, prophecies about 2025, whether in the form of apocalyptic predictions, futuristic theories, or conspiracy theories, reflect both our fears and our hopes for the future. While these predictions can make us anxious, they also offer us an opportunity to reflect on what we really want for tomorrow. Now more than ever, it is time to act responsibly, take control of our destiny, and build a future that is worthy of our aspirations. So, what do you think? Are we really prepared for 2025, or are we just creating our own narratives? Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Let's reflect on the future together and make a difference.